Alright guys, and welcome back to another creepy episode on the channel. This week we're actually going to be covering something super scary, which is the Exorcism of Emily Rose. Well, to be honest, the true story behind it. But before we get into that, I just want to say a massive thank you for all the crazy support we've had over the past few days. It's literally made mine and Fiona's weekend. It's been one of the best weekends because it's been like, the comments have been so lovely. The constructive criticism's been so nice, and we're working to make our videos better and better every week, so we thank you so much for giving us advice and stuff. Thank you for hitting the subscribe button, thank you for even taking time out of your day to watch our videos, it's just crazy. And also another special thank you to Harmony Nice, because you've been incredible to us and she's been a great support to us and our channel, so yeah, thank you.
So the Exorcism of Emily Rose is actually based on a true story about this poor girl called Anneliese Michel. So she was actually 23 when she died and was possessed by said to be 6 demons. So Anneliese was brought up in an incredibly religious family. She was Roman Catholic, and her dad actually wanted to be a priest, and she had 2 aunts that were nuns. And she was an incredibly generous and loving girl. Everyone that met her respected her and saw her as like almost a pioneer for their religion. She was so devoted to God. She often suffered for the sins of others. That was kind of like her life motto, which was really sad considering what happened to her.
So in 1968, Anneliese turned 17, and this is when some really strange things started to occur to her, and it sort of life in general started to get a bit dark and tragic. So throughout her prayers, what would often occur to her is she would hear voices, and she would have weird sort of demonic hallucinations. And one of the things that would most commonly happen to her is a voice saying that she was damned. And to anyone religious, that's a really scary thing to hear, because you're devoting your life to God and there's this like evil presence saying you're damned, you know. And it's any religious person's worst fear is not reaching heaven, actually being dragged down to hell. So you can imagine how scared she was at this point, and she was only 17 years old. As well as that, she would have convulsions where she was basically having kind of fits. And that's when she was diagnosed with epilepsy, and she actually received treatment for this for a short period of time.
Moving forward onto 1975, Anneliese's mother decided that she needed a priest and she needed an exorcism, because she started to become very depressed and suicidal, which obviously was completely against her religion and was just not in her mindset at all. It was actually determined that she was possessed when she was on a pilgrimage, and she wouldn't walk past pictures of Jesus, and she would refuse to drink the holy water, and she apparently smelled like hell is how they described it, which is really freaky.
Like burning.
Yeah, it's like really weird, and obviously she's been so devoted she just wouldn't ever act like that. She'd never refused to drink holy water and things like that, so that was when they decided she needed a priest.
Okay, so what happened after all this crazy stuff with like the suicidal thoughts and that was something that gets like a big leap in creepiness and just general like, just made when I read it literally just made me like kind of freak out a bit because it's so scary.
Yeah, this gives me chills.
Anneliese was at her dinner table with all her family around, and she looked down at her hands and she noticed that they were 2 times bigger than normal. And it was actually initially her mum that like saw this first and recognised it, and then Anneliese looked down and she said, like, actual quote was, "I have black hands, forgive me, saviour," which basically meant that she felt like she was evil and there was like a dark presence within her, which is just absolutely terrifying. Imagine just looking down at your hands right now and them literally being twice as big.
Oh,
and hearing voices and just having all these dark hallucinations all the time at 17. Crazy.
It's terrifying. So after this completely terrifying experience, it only got worse, unfortunately. So Anneliese around her house would see like demon faces and images and symbols in like the walls of her house when she was walking around, and she would see like symbols, like sometimes she'd be walking and she'd just be hit with like demonic images, like not even like in the physical world. And the scariest part is when she'd be walking around like looking at people's faces, they'd have like demon faces, And I remember they did show that in the film, and that was so scary, and to think that's actually real, like, you'd feel so disconnected from reality, and it is terrifying. I cannot, because it's like, it's like in your own mind, but it's not, and that you have no control over it. Yeah. I can't imagine anything scary, because there's no way you can like run from that. It's terrifying.
Okay, so then this story takes an even more sinister turn, and it becomes very quite violent, and this is where she started to actually sustain injuries to her own body. Basically, she was still so committed to her God and to her religion, and she was so desperate to try and find the light in all this sort of darkness that was happening to her, that she still committed to doing her prayers and tried to obviously ask for help from her God. Now, every time she tried this, I mean, we're talking about a strictly religious 17-year-old girl. Every time she tried this, she was literally thrown around the room, thrown to the ground. So she was even still so committed. Imagine that happened to you. You'd be so scared that most people would probably be giving up by then.
Yeah.
But she still, like, and then she laced her room with pillows, so that even though she was getting, I don't know, sort of manipulated by this unseen presence, she could still try and finish her prayers in one last hope to have, like, help from God.
So at this point, Anneliese's mother was like, we need to get in touch with a priest. So she got in touch with Father Renz, who then, basically he knew that he needed to perform an exorcism on Anneliese, but you have to get permission from the Catholic Church, and in order to do that you have to talk to psychologists and doctors and like, no, there's definitely no underlying medical cause. So she went to so many doctors, so many psychologists, and all of them said there's no cure. I think he even asked for drugs to help with the pain for her, and the doctor said like there's no injection to cure the devil. So in the end, the Catholic Church did agree for Father Renz to perform an exorcism on Anneliese.
So shortly after this, it was becoming more than apparent that these so-called demons weren't going anywhere, and they had to actually up the exorcisms to twice a week, which obviously took its toll on Anneliese in the end. So now, I don't know, when I heard this, it sent like chills down my spine. There's an actual recording of one of the exorcisms where you can hear up to 6 different demons inside her. Now, it's a bit like the Enfield haunting we did, where she had a voice come out of her which didn't sound like a small child. There was literally really deep, masculine, evil sounding voices being projected out of this young lady, and I mean 6 different kinds, which the priest believed to be 6 individual demons. So another creepy thing is when Anneliese could apparently actually see the 6 individual demons dancing around the priest, essentially mocking him, saying, you know, this young lady is ours, you know, her, like, kind of like her soul belongs to us and no one is saving her, not even your God. Now, imagine being that young lady and your only hope is this guy trying to project these demons out of you, and you can see them just dancing around you, just mocking your life, when you're literally holding onto life by like a thread. I mean, I literally can't think of anything more scary than that, to be honest, and I just can't believe what she went through. It's just unbelievable.
So it seemed that she actually got worse as the exorcisms went on, and like in between the exorcisms in her own time, she'd be biting into like concrete walls. She would scratch walls until her like nails came off, and she would urinate on the floor and lick it up, and if she threw up she'd eat it, and she was eating bugs and things like that, and she was very violent to her sister and her boyfriend, and it was just horrifying because obviously she kind of beat up her own body like by biting into the walls, like her teeth were all broken, and she just completely went downhill as it all went on, and it was really sad to see. I can't imagine what it must have been like for her family to see that happening to her and just having no power at all.
And she even at one point bit the head off a live bird.
Oh god,
I think it was a sparrow. She literally bit the head off of it. And this was someone who was refusing. You can tell it's something quite evil and sinister, because this is someone refusing to eat food, like general food, and yet is biting into concrete, eating bugs, eating sick, licking urine and eating live animals in some cases. You can tell this is something evil manipulating her into doing this horrible stuff, like sort of torturing her.
And at one point she even crawled under a table and barked like a dog for 2 days straight, and she just wouldn't eat or drink or anything.
Yeah.
It was really, really freaky. So on the 1st of July 1976, unfortunately Anneliese Michel passed away because of everything she'd been through. The cause of death was said to be malnutrition, but it was obviously due to the evil spirits that were causing this to her.
So in the end, this poor girl sustained not only cuts, bruises, but she actually had broken bones, broken teeth, you know, black eyes, and where she had been falling to her knees, where I said earlier about her being pushed when she was praying, she actually had all her ligaments ruptured, which is really painful in itself. And it's just unbelievable what this young lady went through, and it's really scary because there's no real explanation for it still to this day. And before she left this world, she said 2 kind of chilling things which kind of stick with me. Do they stick with you?
Yeah.
To the priest she said, pray for absolution, which basically means like forgiveness. And the last words she said before she left this world was to her mother, and she just said, "Mother, I'm afraid." Now that is just something that is really sad and just quite frightening, I think, because why was she so scared to die when she's such a believer in God? You know, she put, like, originally a few years ago she would have believed that she'd be going up, you know, to heaven, and she obviously was very, very, very scared of what was going to come next for some reason, and that is just something that will never be answered or explained.
So shortly after Anneliese's death, her mother and the priests involved were actually charged for negligent homicide because of obviously the state she was in when she died. They couldn't understand why she hadn't been fed and why she was in such poor condition. And all of the doctors and psychologists that had obviously agreed to the exorcism all took back what they said, that they thought it was the devil. So they took back everything, so obviously they kind of left them stuck in it. The charge was 6 months in prison, but it was lifted to 3 months probation instead. So they actually didn't have to stay in prison, which is good because obviously they didn't do anything wrong. Anneliese's mum still says to this day she feels like the demons like followed her. Obviously it's not as strong as when her daughter was there, but she does feel like a demonic presence has not left her. She's also really not happy about the film being made because she obviously went through it and she doesn't want to watch it. And she always says Hollywood could not recreate the evil that she went through. They could never make it as scary or as true as what she experienced. So it's incredibly sad, really.
Yeah, and I think what Fiona said, the mother saying that, the scariest part about that is usually it works the other way around. There's usually a scary story, but Hollywood makes it even more scarier and emphasises it even more. But she's saying what she went through is not of this world, and you can't replicate it unless you live it. And I think that is the scariest part of this whole story.
Definitely.
Is not being able to recreate, even in their fake film, like something as scary as what actually happened in reality. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching our videos. Thank you so much for all the support you've been giving us. I literally haven't stopped smiling, like
I know, you've
checking
been
my
so
phone
amazing.
It's incredible. Please leave a comment below what sort of videos you want to see from this channel. If you have any ideas, we reply obviously to every comment because you amazing people take time out of your day to watch our videos, which still blows my mind.
Yeah.
And it will never stop blowing my mind. And also I hate to do this, like push like media links and all that, but if you guys want to really get in touch with us and keep up to date with what we're filming and stuff, Instagram really is the best place to do that. So there'll be a link for our Instagram below, so please give us a follow if you like. And we will see you in the next creepy video. But until then, have a great day guys, and thank you so much.